Hey guys, Justin Bryant here from selfmadesuccess.com. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing Money Master the Game, the book by Tony Robbins. And I'm going to show you what's covered. I'm going to break it down into the different sections, what the chapters cover as far as what he talks about. I'm not going to get into every single specific strategy that he gives you in this book right now. You'll have to stay tuned for my summary and notes video, which should come in the next week for this book. But this is a review of what general topics are going to be discovered, what he's going to teach you, how it's divided up, and who this book is for, who it's not. Because this book it's about 650 pages or so I wouldn't recommend it for everyone. And you need to be a certain type of person to read this book. Even if it does have good reviews, that doesn't mean it's for everyone. So I'm going to cover everything that you need to know about this book to decide whether or not it's something you should even bother with. So if you need to know who Tony Robbins is, first off, he's the writer of this book. He interviewed a lot of investors for this book, but he basically is someone who had a lot of family issues growing up. He never went to college. He was a janitor for a long time, and he really just worked his way up to eventually becoming worth tens of millions of dollars. He got mentored by Jim Rohn, who is a personal development and success coach, and now he is one of the most sought after results-oriented coaches available. So he helps celebrities, he helps athletes, he helps presidents like Bill Clinton, and he is pretty much the number one coach right now for getting you results. He has a lot of books he's written, seminars, and things like that. So I'll have a link to this page for you if you want to read more about him. If you want to get the book, at any point, you can get on Amazon. To make sure you don't get a knockoff or some kind of, crummy summary of the book or something. Make sure this is the cover, and it's called Money Master the Game, 7 Simple Steps to Financial Freedom. It's on Amazon. He has audio and digital and physical versions of this book. The first thing that is covered in this book, and kind of the first few chapters of section 1, is how the investing system works, who it actually benefits most. So he talks about how the big financial institutions are the ones that benefit most from the investments. Now, this is not to say you shouldn't invest. This book teaches you how you're supposed to invest to actually win, to actually do very well. That's the whole point of the book. A lot of people just don't know how to do it because no one ever teaches it to anybody. But the investing system, for the most part, for average people who don't know the details of what is taught in this book, works better for the institutions than it does for the individuals who have investments. So he talks about that in depth in the first few chapters, what the institutions do, how the system works. It's also covered later on when he gets to the actual interviews of the other investors who talk about why the stock market goes up and why the stock market goes down specifically, and things like that. So if you want to know how it works before you invest, or so you can improve your investments, he covers that. Number 2, he also covers how to find what money means to you. So before he teaches you all these strategies for making the money you want to make and retiring when you want to retire and all that, he tells you that you need to figure out what it means to you, because money is only an object to get you what you actually want, which may be more time, freedom from having a job, which may be more family, vacations, it may be a nicer car, a nicer home. Whatever it is that the money is supposed to get you, you need to define that. You need to be at peace with that. You need to have that as your goal. So he's known for personal development. He's going to have some of that in the book. If you don't like personal development stuff, sorry, but there is going to be a few chapters at the beginning and at the end towards that, but it's still mostly about the stock market and all of that. But he will talk about, like chapter 1.1, it's your money, it's your life, take control. He covers kind of the general 7 steps, which you can see it's in 7 sections with a few chapters in each section. And make the financial decision of your life basically has to do with what money means to you. So once you kind of know the foundation, you can move to the next section, and it talks about the different investment vehicles. So you have mutual funds, you have 401ks, you have IRAs, you have annuities, you have all these different types of investment vehicles. And many of us have one or two of these things with employers or through our businesses, but we don't actually know what the other ones do or what the best versions of these are. So he covers all of that. He talks about how mutual funds work, what the mutual fund managers do, what the institutions get from it, how 401ks work, what 401ks are actually meant for. He talks about how they're not really meant to cover our entire retirement because people are living so long after retirement now. They were established back before lifespans were as long as they are now. So he talks about that, how you need to supplement them, and basically the different investment vehicles that you can use because you have many options. So section 2, we start getting into that. He talks about some of the financial myths that you've heard of, that the news reports that tend to be lies. He talks about, how they tell you to invest with us, we'll beat the market, and whether that actually works, things like that. Number 4, what fees come with most investment vehicles? So fees are a huge part of this book. Many people don't understand how many fees there actually are. We have management fees. We have commissions to brokers. We have all these different fees that we also have taxes, of course. We have all these different fees that come out of our investments that, because investments only make typically, 3 to 5, maybe more if you're lucky, percent per year, if the stock market is steady, we end up paying a lot of those to the big corporations that we have our investments with. So he talks about that, how that works, how fees work, what kind of taxes you're probably paying, and of course he's going to show you how to minimize those. Number 5, he talks about how to calculate what you need for retirement and how to get there faster. So how aggressive you invest or how conservative you invest is going to be a lot about how you want to go about using the money that you make. And some people want to retire at 30 years old and want to get an early start when they're 20. Some people some people may be older and they want to supplement their retirement. Whatever your case may be, you need to know that. He teaches you how to ask yourself the right questions, how to come up with a goal of what time you need this amount of money, and things like that to help you know how you're going to need to invest, because he's going to cover all pretty much the different strategies you can go about investing, but not everyone's going to use the same strategy. There's no one size fits all. It depends on your age, where you're going, what your goal is. Number 6, strategies for investing long term and what vehicles can get you there. So a lot of this book is about long term investing. I mean, if you want to get rich quick or something, this book is probably not what you want. And it's a very long book for you to read all the way through and be disappointed by. So if that's something that you want to do, you want to learn how to make $1 million overnight, just don't even bother reading this. But in section 3, he's going to talk a lot about your plan, how to start investing, how to make it more automatic to where you don't have to think about it as much, how to use certain tools that many top investment groups offer, how to minimize fees, what vehicles there are, what types of 401ks there are, what types of IRAs, what types of annuities are out there. There's many different types. It's not just 3 or 4 different ones and you just pick one of the 4. You actually have major categories, and then you have a lot of subcategories and sub vehicles that you can choose from. So he talks about each one, and you can take some notes and make your decision of which one makes the most sense for your situation. Number 7, he talks about how to minimize risk and maximize your returns. So he talks about asymmetric investing, which basically means usually when you invest, you think the amount of risk I put in versus the amount of possible returns is always symmetrical. So if I risk more, there's a chance I'll get more in return, but there's also a chance I'll blow everything up. But that's not always how it works. So he talks to some of these top investors. They give some examples about how you can risk very little and have the same returns as a high risk investment strategy. So he talks about 100% principal protection, which means if your investments ever get to where they're losing money, you would never lose money because you have a cap or a floor there that would prevent that. He talks about all kinds of different strategies that will help you minimize your downside while increasing your upside. Number 8, he talks about how to divide up assets by percentages. So he talks about different buckets, where in section 4 here, he talks about you have a risk/growth bucket. So that's going to be, in most cases, they're going to be fairly symmetrical, your investments. There's only different opportunities that come along every few years that are asymmetrical. And you need to have a risk/growth bucket for when the stock market is steady and doing well, which most of the time it is. We have different crashes, every once in a while, but it always ends up going back up to a new high within a few years. So you also need to have a more conservative bucket, which is like your retirement bucket, where you're focused on not losing money. And then you also have a dream bucket, which can be kind of, how can I do some big things that I've always wanted to do? What is my bucket list? How can I create a separate portfolio area where I just automatically use that money for just pursuing different dreams? And then he talks about timing and things like that. So that pretty much covers section 4. He also talks about portfolio examples from top billionaire investors, and he talks about what he discussed, and he has the actual transcription of their exact interview, his questions being Tony Robbins, and the answers from people like Carl Icahn, David Swenson, John Bogle, Warren Buffett, etc. Many of them are billionaires or hedge fund managers of some kind, and they talk about their ideas for investing and what people should do, different examples of portfolios they give to people or they recommend to their family members or that they've used themselves, and how to get them, what kind of vehicles you should use to implement them, how you should divide up your different assets between commodities, between bonds, stocks, foreign markets, things like that. All that is covered in section 5 and 6. So section 6 especially, great part of the book where you get to see what they actually said, but do not skip straight to that because you will be completely confused if you don't read the first 5 sections. And number 10, advice from the interviews with 12 top investors, of course. Like I mentioned, he talks about dividing up your portfolio and things like that. That's more section 5. Section 6, like I said, he talks about the different interviews he had and the transcriptions. 12 different people you can see listed here. And after you get through that area, you get to how to actually have fulfillment in your life, how to be happy and actually fill the void that money does not fill, because he talks about how many of these people realized that when they became billionaires, there's always a void that could only be filled by certain things, like giving, like family, like relationships, like helping other people, like having some kind of a purpose for your life and things like that. And he talks about how to find that and what to do with it, and how to actually get involved in something right away that Tony Robbins is working on, which is feeding people in America, and how you can get involved with that and instantly make yourself a little more happy with what you're doing. So that's it. That's the 7 main sections of the book. Enjoying your money and finding your passion, or finding your happiness, even with or without the money, is something that's not money related, because if you're going to be depressed and wealthy, it doesn't really help too much. But he, of course, like I said, he talks about what the billionaires do, your income plan, how to make the decision of what you need, how to divide it up into different buckets, what happens in the stock market, what causes it to go up and down, how does it work, how can you invest in other things besides stocks, different things like that. So that's what's covered. Definitely a book I recommend. Personally, I really enjoyed the book. I thought it was a little long. I'm not sure how he would shorten it. I took a lot of notes. I took probably 50 pages of notes from this book. But considering it's a 650 or 700 page book, it's a lot easier for me personally to go back over the notes and read those than it is for me to reread the book. It's hard to just mentally make yourself read this book multiple times. So if you're looking for an enjoyable read, this is not the book for you. It's more for information purposes. It's very analytical. It's very straightforward. There are a lot of, side stories and personal development tips and stuff in this book. So you'll have to work through that. I think it's very good. He knows more than probably anybody I can think of about personal development. So he will help you get the mental side of this down, of success. But if you want a story-driven book, if you want something that's very entertaining, this book is not going to be fun for you. You do not want to read it. You might try to get the Spark Notes from it or something. Or maybe you can get the notes from a friend or something. Or you can see my video that's coming up that will do more of a summary and some of my notes from it. This book is not for people who don't want to take the time to read a long book. So if you are very impatient and you don't like reading long books, don't even bother. Now, I divided it up about a chapter or 2 a day, so that helps me. But even if you don't like doing that, if you don't like making a long-term commitment, whether you do it all at once or over a weekend or over the course of a few months, it probably took me a couple months just to get through this book. But if you don't want the commitment, then don't bother. Now, it's worth it if you do it, and you will realize that, especially if you take notes. But, I know a lot of people just don't like reading, and so you may not want to deal with it. This book is not for people who want to get rich quick without effort. So you can invest. When I talk about asymmetrical investing, and part of that book, Tony Robbins goes over a few interviews where they talk about investing in different things that can be asymmetrical, where the risk is almost nothing and the upside is almost guaranteed to be huge. But those are not going to come along very often. There's every few years, maybe every 5 to 10 years, you will have an opportunity like that. For instance, some of these people made their biggest fortunes in the crash of 2008 because they saw it coming, because they were able to find a pattern and invest a certain way to where what happened benefited them. That was just an opportunity. We don't know when that's going to happen again. But if you want a get-rich-quick type thing, this is not for you. This is more long-term than anything else. Also, this book is for people who are beginners and want to invest successfully. So it's not just for people who are experienced in investing. I was a beginner when I read this book, so it really pretty much taught me all the background knowledge I needed to know that I'd never been taught in school or anywhere else. This book is also for experienced investors. So if you know what you're doing, or at least you have a job that has, a 401k, and you have a little bit of freedom of investing in different things, maybe you have a managed account, but if you want to just know more, you want to get the best strategies, you don't want to just be average, you want to be the best at what you do as far as investing, then this book is definitely going to help you. And this book is for all adults of any age. So whatever your age is, if you're in high school, maybe, you could still probably get a lot from this book. You won't be able to invest much yet, but if you're, say, sophomore, junior, or older, then you can get a lot from this book. This book will help you, beginner or advanced investor, or somewhere in between. Either way, it's going to teach you pretty much whatever you need to know to invest long term, especially, and minimize your risk. At the very least, you will at least know how everything works so that you can make your own decisions if you don't want to necessarily follow the strategies given to you from Warren Buffett and people like that. So this book is extremely good. I love this book. I wish it was shorter, but sometimes we can't always have everything perfect. Like I said, this book is for certain people. It's not for others. But if you got something from this review of the book, please like and subscribe so I can create more videos like this for you. I'd love to show you some more great books to help you. If there are some things you thought I left out that it should have been in this review, or you want to just let me know what you thought about the video in general, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you and get your feedback. I'm always looking to improve these videos for you. Also, the notes, links to Tony Robbins' pages, to the book, to his other books, other related content, all that type of stuff will be on one page for you at selfmadesuccess.com. And you can find a link to that on the selfmadesuccess.com website, or you can find it in the first couple sentences of the video description. So other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a great day.